And I always, think to myself too, I think there is a misconception that they think this is like a one-time investment. I want a design that has longevity to it that's going to last. But I think at the same time, we also have to remember that this is a business, just like you'd pour into any business to improve it. You're going to have to continuously invest back into these properties to stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the competition, and even taking something that might be doing really well in a lookalike market and saying, hey, we don't see this in this market yet, but that's not indicating that we shouldn't introduce something like a brand new amenity that we're not seeing across the competition, for instance, and being a trailblazer in your market. So I think just helping the data, point out that story, help them understand is how I kind of craft that kind of recommendation when going back to our clients.
On today's episode of the Lux and the Short of It podcast, I am interviewing Brianna Amigo from Brianna Michelle Interiors. She's the founder, creative director, designer that helps short-term rental hosts really stop the scroll and create designs that are going to increase profitability, which you guys know that I absolutely love. So she has such a wealth of knowledge in the design space. Even if you don't have an Airbnb, you can take some of her amazing tips from this episode out of it. But she is a mom and an entrepreneur, and she just keeps it real in this episode. I loved chatting with her, and I know you guys are going to love this episode. All right, guys, today I have Brianna Amigo from Brianna Michelle Interiors with me. And so many of you guys in the short-term rental space are familiar with her amazing work on short-term rentals. But I wanted to explore just a little bit more behind Brianna, like what got you started in short-term rentals and designing these amazing scroll stopping spaces for folks. So today's conversation is just going to be a bit of, taking that deeper dive into what makes you you. So Brianna, just for your knowledge, we on the show like to hear the behind the scenes story and hear what opportunities you seize to make your business a reality. So I'm really curious just to start off with a fun question. What is something that if somebody Googled your name, they would not find, but maybe something that's kind of fun?
Okay. Something fun. I think, I guess something fun is that I was raised in a very kind of creative household, and my dad was a chef and a musician. So
So fun.
it was very fun growing up. And I think that's probably where I get a lot of my craving for creativity in my life. It's just like in my DNA. So I had a very fun, colorful upbringing, I would say. And that definitely plays out into what I do today. And I think I learned that later in life that just like my non-traditional upbringing was probably why I wanted to go into the world of design.
So, if he was a chef,
Yeah.
what was your favorite thing that he made?
He made everything, and so my dad was an incredible chef. He made this one dish that I think it's super simple, and I try to replicate it. My dad passed in 2019, but
Oh, I'm so sorry.
thank you. But it was super simple. It's just fresh basil, ton of garlic, shallots, and tomatoes, usually like heirloom tomatoes, and he would just saute that into some pasta, and it
Oh
was
man, you're
good.
speaking my language.
And I make that all the time, and it reminds me of my dad.
Oh, that's so special. So, was your mom creative too?
My mom is an accountant, so, completely different and opposite, full opposite, type of careers, and so I had the best
Yeah.
of worlds. I had a little bit of, like, do what you love and that you're super passionate about, and then also, like, do what's stable and that makes sense, and business is gonna be a great, great lane for you, and that's actually I did follow my mom's kind of direction there. I went to school for business marketing, and I got my degree in marketing, and I worked for almost 10 years in the marketing corporate space before I got into this world.
Got into this world. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with what Brianna does. Her business is Brianna Michelle Interiors, and they are a design studio that helps real estate investors scale their Airbnb businesses through strategic scroll stopping design, which I love. I'm all about that elevated guest experience and just making sure that somebody has a top tier property in whatever market they choose. Talk to me about how your background in marketing and kind of the data aspect helps you, like, not just the artistic part of the design business, but also the science part behind it.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I think now coming full circle, I've fully realized that those 10 years were not wasted. And I went to school for,
Totally.
something that I apply every single day in my work experience. I use it every day, and making sure that the designs we're putting together for our clients are really speaking and resonating with their guest avatar in mind. So I think, understanding behaviors, why people are visiting certain markets, what are they looking for when they're looking for a place to stay, putting yourself in that consumer standpoint too. Like, I'm an avid traveler. I
Totally.
love to, I nitpick hospitality all the time when I'm
So
on my
do
own
I.
travels, and I'm just like, oh, I wish they just thought about this, or this really is like a small detail, but it makes a huge impact to that guest experience. And just kind of really understanding that that guest experience is really truly at center of what we're doing, and using the data to really back that and help our clients understand that there's a reason why we're making these suggestions. It's not based off of aesthetics and what we think looks pretty and what looks good and what's instagrammable, but what will really perform well and produce the most ROI behind your investment.
I love that because I think people a lot of times it's a misconception that markets are saturated, and that's something that we hear a lot in the industry right now. And my take is, if the market is quote saturated and you're not making money, it's because somebody else is. So how do you come into people's businesses and say, maybe had a property that's not performing as it should, or they're new to this, and say, "All right, this is what's gonna really move the needle." How do you quantify that in the space?
Yeah, I mean, I think relying on that data
Yep,
to kind of show them the different use cases of applying certain amenity strategies, design strategies, and showing that this is what's working in your market. This is what the top performing listings, what we're seeing. And I always suggest to clients that even though that's what they're doing, that doesn't quite mean we need to do the exact same. It might mean we need to check off all of the same boxes, but we need to do something a little bit more, a little bit better than what they are doing in order to outperform them. And I always, think to myself too, I think a lot there is a misconception that they think this is like a one-time investment. I want a design that has longevity to it that's going to last. But I think at the same time, we also have to remember that this is a business, just like you'd pour into any business to improve it. You're going to have to continuously invest back into these properties to stay ahead of the curve, stay ahead of the competition, and even taking something that might be doing really well in a lookalike market and saying, hey, we don't see this in this market yet, but that's not indicating that we shouldn't introduce something like a brand new amenity that we're not seeing across the competition, for instance, and being a trailblazer in your market. So I think just helping the data, point out that story, help them understand, is how I kind of craft that kind of recommendation when going back to our clients.
I love that. I wanna circle back to what you were saying about it not being necessarily a one-time investment. How often do you suggest hosts come back and revisit, maybe do a little bit of a refresh on design? What are you seeing have that sweet spot for ROI there?
Yeah, every year you're gonna have to replace things, and I don't
Totally.
think you need to redesign by any means. You're gonna have to replace things that are a little worn out, potentially broken, and I think that's just gonna happen. As a short-term rental host, it's just bound to be a part of just the maintenance costs when operating a short-term rental. But I think every 3 to 5 years, you should probably take a look at what's going on in your market to say, okay, there's some new investors in this area. What are they doing? I was really a top performing. Once you start seeing a downtrend in your numbers, I think just staying on top of like what's going on. Why am I
Yep.
seeing a downturn? What are the new competition market, in the market? What are they doing? And really understanding, is there a way that I can maybe potentially reinvest in some of those additional elements that those competitors have. And see if it's really worth the ROI. Sometimes I always suggest to clients, like, don't engage with us first unless you've really done a deep dive on the numbers. I think the numbers is what I even need to feel confident that these redesign, refresh, suggestions are going to produce the most ROI. So I think looking at the data, on top of Air DNA, and looking at what's going on with your competition.
Totally. So I know that you're a super host yourself
Yeah.
and do you have how many properties do you have in your portfolio?
I only have one short-term rental, and so we have one property, and we hope to have another this upcoming year. But
Exciting.
we are real estate investors, so we flip and just design and flip homes all the time. But this is really kind of our one baby of a short-term rental that we have.
So tell us about it. Where is it? Like,
Yeah, it's
how
in
did you get started? How'd you get the short-term rental bug?
Yes. I mean, I think going back to, our origination story of I was designing residential projects starting in 2019 alongside my 9 to 5 marketing job. I had
Oof.
no idea this is what it would become. And
Yeah.
this was really not, it's something that I thought would be realistic for me. But as I was working in my corporate life, I felt unfulfilled, and again, craving that creativity. Started designing our own properties, family friends, turning into local clients here in Southern California. And then not until I met with two real estate investors, the Robinsons, Tony and Sarah, about their properties that they were investing in the short term rental space. And I did not know too much about short term rentals. I was not super educated in this space. And so I did all the things that I'm sure a lot of us did in 2020. I listened to Bigger Pockets. I read the books.
Yeah.
I went on YouTube. I started to integrate myself into this space because I felt like I had to, as a designer, to really understand, what am I designing? A short-term rental. What does that exactly mean? And I was hooked. I was like, wait, there's really no other designers that I can see that are really specialized in this space. And if there was very few. And I was like, I think this could be a really good business model, like niching the business around short term rentals. And so that's what I did. In 2020, I decided just to serve short term rental investors. And I still was doing that while working. And I had, at the time, a toddler. And so I was like, this is kind of getting too much. Like, I'm
Totally.
doing all the things. So I decided in 2021, I think I could go all in and just 100% run this business and just see what happens. Let's just take the risk and kind of see how this plays out. And I talked to my husband about it, and we just felt like, okay, I think this is the time. And so we did it. And I haven't looked back. It's become what it is today. And we've designed over 200 short-term rentals over the past few years, and all over the US. And so, yeah, I mean, I think once I started working with investors, that's when I really kind of got the bug of short term rentals and becoming a real estate investor ourselves. And we were young and silly at the time. Like, when we first bought our first home and we sold our home, when we didn't realize there was so much equity there, we probably should have at least ran it as a long term rental. But we bought our second home, and once we started to realize, like, we need to hold on to some of this real estate that we are acquiring. And once we, had enough savings, we're like, well, let's do our own short-term rental. So we invested into one in Big Bear, which is just a mountain community here in SoCal,
Hmm.
and we love it. It's a tiny little cabin that's super intimate
Cute.
and cozy. It's called the Cozy Gambrel, and we've had it for 3 years now, and we love it. So I continue to still self manage it. We still communicate with every person on our team that helps us manage it. On the boots on the ground team, from cleaners to handymen to spa guys to plow guys helping us plow our driveways when it snows, but all the things. And I love the hospitality part of creating that experience that really feels super curated. And I hope that I can kind of replicate that in a different market somewhere in 2025. So that's definitely on a personal goal list of mine.
That's amazing. So I think so many people who are listening to this will relate to speaking to all of the boots on the ground, the guests, all of the hospitality, and like juggling all of that. You alluded that, of course, you have a very busy business doing the design. You have a toddler. I think you have one more.
And he's not a toddler anymore. So he's 7 years old, he's in 1st grade, and then I have a 2-year-old, almost
Oh
2.
my gracious. And then you're a short-term rental host on top of it, which I just think speaks to this business model of being able to have it complement other things that you have going on in your life. But talk to us about how you juggle life as an entrepreneur, as a mom, and a short-term rental host, like all of the things combined. Like what's the key to
I wish I knew. I mean,
it? I know.
yes, I never want to position myself to have it figured out because I really don't. I think I do a good job, but I do think there's room to improve for
Of
sure. I
course.
mean,
Always.
it's really hard, once you own your own business, and I'm sure you know this, when you have a team and everything, it's a lot to disconnect from. It really can't turn it off. And you have to have, really strong boundaries in order to do that. And I haven't quite put those walls up yet to say, okay, like I can't respond to that right now. And so I think that's a part of, as I'm learning, but I definitely, I think having help has been, a key part of this. I'm not going to say that I do it all because I have my daughter, my almost 2-year-old in daycare, and that what makes it possible for me to be, sitting here. And so
Totally.
think that is a huge part, and my son's in school, and so but I do pick up, drop off, I do it all, and I'm able to, be present with them when I am with them, and then when they're sleeping, I probably just jump back on and start working again, but I think that is, a part of being an entrepreneur, and, there's gonna be hard times, and I think, at the end of the day, it's so fulfilling that you're able to do this, and you get to build your own business and do what you envision it to be, and it's pretty empowering, but at the same time it's a lot of work. And so I think it's a balancing act. Time blocking is really key for me,
Oh,
making
that's
sure
huge.
that I block my calendar. This is the time I'm going to sit and actually work, and I'll put like focus music on, and like meditation music to really deeply focused, and I'll tell my team, "Hey, like I'm going to work on something for the next hour or 2," and try to create an uninterrupted space for myself. And then when I know I need to go volunteer in my son's class, I make a time block. Hey guys, I'm going over to go work and volunteer in my son's class today. And just making sure that the times that I'm setting for myself are really intentional and that there's a goal in mind. I'm trying to achieve something during that time, trying to complete that, and then move on to the next thing. So yeah.
There was so much gold in that, and I wanna unpack, like, so many different things, and I one of the things that I've seen on several quotes recently is you know that you've won as an entrepreneur and that you're successful as an entrepreneur when you're able to pick your kids up from school and drop them off and have the freedom to do that. Like the majority of people haven't even got to that point. And
Right.
so kudos to you for that. But the time blocking piece, Alex Hormozy did an entire like live several months ago about maker time versus manager time.
Mhm.
And it was so impactful, and it sounds like you are already implementing this time blocking piece, but it was talking about how when we get into the deep work, just throwing one task in the middle of it just completely throws off our flow. So, I love that you said that you, like, 1, block it off, you let your team know, and then 2, you put on that focus music. It's something that I've really tried hard to set myself up for those maker times of just undistracted deep work where I don't have meetings, I don't have people like messaging me or calling me. Phone goes on do not disturb. What else do you have in your toolbox to help when you're trying to get from like mom, business owner mode into that creative state to design for somebody? Like what just sets it off for you? Or do you have anything that sets it off for you?
Yeah. I think really giving yourself, stepping away for a second,
Yeah.
honestly, all of just the noise of running a business and
Hmm.
outside. And I think I always tell my team this too. If you're getting stuck on something, walk away from it and move on to something else,
Love
because
that.
having a little bit of a reset to be like, hey, like, why, what does inspire me about this space? What is the vision that we're trying to create in this space? And really asking the questions of like the foundation of what are we trying to achieve? What are the goals? What are we looking to create? And trying to find that inspiration, kind of stepping away from our computer screens to come up with that kind of creativity, that idea. But also asking your amazing team that you have around you. I think that's like a huge part. Like if I get stuck on something or someone on my team does, let's talk about it. Let's talk through like, do you have a better idea? What do you think about this? Do you like this option or this option? And that's like the space that I've really created on our team is it's very collaborative.
I
And
love
so
that.
um, you know, being willing to collaborate and being willing to step away to kind of spark just a little bit life into the work that we're doing, because it can be mundane to sit behind of a screen and designing properties. I think people think it's super creative and fun, but there's a lot of tedious work behind it. There's space planning, functional, just making sure that there's enough walk space, there's enough seats at the dining room table, enough seats at the living room spaces based off of your occupancy, budgets, durability, ease of clean, ease of turnover. We're like considering a lot of different elements. So it can be tedious and it's very detailed at the same time, too. So it's easy to kind of like lose that just creativity, that flow sometimes. And I think stepping away and then leaning on other people to kind of help you through it is going to to be key to kind of get you through it.
Totally. What inspires you?
I think, for me, like what inspires and what looks like success for me is time. Time
Yes.
to be completely just in control of that time and to make decisions on how you want to spend that time and not, I think this it's a very high pressure kind of role to run a business and you're working
Mhm.
with a lot of clients. And at the end of the day, I think I need, I've done really great with setting boundaries with our clients too, of making sure that, hey, like during the weekend, I'm not on call and I'm going to be intently with my family. And that's what success looks like. If I had time to be 100% intentional and present with my family,
Mhm.
time to travel, time to enjoy life. Like we work to live. It's not the other way around. So I'm not
Yes.
to work. And so I think it's obvious it's sometimes really hard. And that's why I probably get it mixed up because I personally have a hard time with that. It's
Yeah.
hard to create balance. But I would love to, see BMI and Brianna Michelle Interiors grow into something, even bigger than it is today so that I can gain some time back and decide what I want to do with that time.
I love that. I think that's something that I know I struggle with as an entrepreneur because I absolutely love what I do. And so that's where the challenge is keeping those boundaries when I, I hate to say it this way, but I feel kind of equally fulfilled by doing what I love in my business and growing that. It just brings me so much joy. Um, as I do like with my kiddos. Like I've shared this publicly many times. So I I love my children, but the act of mothering, like diapers and like somebody needing me all of the time is just not my favorite thing in the world. So it's hard to keep that that boundary in place. I have those two and an amazing team who helps supports our clients outside of, just me, which is great. But it's always a challenge to just create that space. But I'm curious, you said that you love to travel. Are you traveling internationally? Do you have any travel hacks with traveling with a toddler? Because I certainly haven't figured them out yet. So
No travel hacks. It
it's just hell all the way around.
really is. No, we go to Maui at least once a year. We love Maui. We love Hawaii. So we did it this last summer with she was at the time probably 15 months and just like started walking and it was
Oh,
well, it was so terrible. He did not want to sit in the seat and be just stuck in a seat the entire flight. And so Yeah, it was rough, but I think, once she was able to kind of get off the airplane, everything was, definitely a lot better. And traveling with my 7-year-old, it's perfect. He's great.
Yeah, when does it change? Because mine are 2 and 4 at this point, so
Around 5 or 6, you're gonna see definitely a complete shift, and, like,
praise
that
the Lord.
independence that he's like an artist, so he's also super creative, so he's just, like, doing art, he's busy, on that plane. He has an agenda, and I'm just like, "You do your thing." So,
You do
uh
you.
yeah, but I mean, we love to travel, and we've internationally, me and my husband, we've done international trips. We haven't quite done that with our kids yet, and not to say
Fair
that
enough.
we won't, but I don't think anytime soon. I need her to be like 5 or before I'm ready to take them like to Europe or anything, but we would love to do that with them. But we love to travel. We locally, but we also again like love to have a little tropical vacations here as well for some relaxation. And then we love Europe as well, but we just haven't done that with the kids quite yet.
I don't blame you at all. I recently we our big initiative for like Q4 has been to optimize things. So we've been looking at, okay, if we're going to spend money anyways, how are we optimizing point spend and doing all this? And so we ended up joining a coaching program, which was weird being a coach myself, went through the entire process with this, but it's specifically for business owners where they look at all of the spend in your business and
Mhm.
say, these are the cards that you should be using. This card is for all of your ad spend. This card is for all of your, business travel, and telling you exactly which cards to use to maximize the earning of the points. And then on the back end, they coordinate the redemption of the points through all of these different travel portals. And so what you get is a bucket list trip every year with the points. So they help you earn the most and then redeem them for the most,
Yeah,
which is such an interesting concept for a coaching program, I thought. But
I need this information.
I'm gonna send it to you guys. I'll put it in the show notes for you guys as well, just because it's been really eye-opening. We had a roadmap call with them yesterday. But what they were saying is based on just our card spend, which I mean, it's a fair amount, but not anything insane. They can
Right,
get us $40,000 to $50,000 in free travel a year based
right.
on our card spend. So they were like, "What is on the bucket list for you guys?" I'm like, "Well, the kiddos are 4 and 2. We are not taking them anywhere international anytime soon,
Yeah,
but we're hoping to take them on a safari when they're a little bit older." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we have people do that all the time, like $0 out of pocket, like first class lay flats all the way to Africa and back." I'm like, what a unique coaching program as a business. I'll get you the information. I'll get you guys the information on who are listening as well.
yeah.
But I was just floored
I'm sure
with what
that's
they were able to do. What a service, right?
what a service. And honestly, I mean, I feel I'm all about the credit card points. So we do the exact same thing, but not probably optimized by any means. So that would be amazing if we, could
Right?
essentially work all year and have it pay off with a really nice trip towards the end of the year. That would be amazing.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's what because we're just like, how do we get more of that? How do we get more of the time, like the dedicated, we say that we want to do it, but do we actually ever do it? And so figuring out a way to, just give us that kick in the pants to just take that time for ourselves because it's so hard as business owners because you feel like the team's relying on you, the family's relying. It's like, how do we set aside that time for each other? So, and the family.
Yeah.
So, I'm really curious. I know you've designed over 200 short-term rentals at this point. What has been your all-time favorite project and why?
Ooh, that's so hard.
It's like choosing a favorite kid, I know, but
Yeah. I don't know if I could. I mean, we've had some really amazing ones this year specifically. And so
bonus
I
points if it's one of my clients. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
so I'm trying to think, well, I some of them I feel like are. I mean, one of them that kind of really just sticks out. We did a property in San Diego, and we called
Mhm.
it like San Diego Craftsman Home. And it was a really old house that had so much charm and character. And I loved that the client really wanted us to lean into that and
Mm,
not kind of take away from it. So it's very transitional, super bright and airy with beautiful textures, lots of really fun, intricate floral and just fun wallpaper throughout, but it really feels still like a craftsman home that we were able to kind of revitalize. And so that one really sticks out for me this year. Today I think we're revealing a really fun mega house in Tulsa. So there's also those
Ooh.
properties where they do all the things. This client, they invested in every single amenity you've seen at a short-term rental. So it's definitely one of those mega short-term rentals. And we are starting to see that more. And those are fun because I think the opportunities are endless. And we went really kind of wild with it, with an art deco kind of theme because Tulsa has so much great art deco architecture around the city. So lots of fun wallpaper, moodiness, dark and fun. I think that was really fun for us this year. Our motel projects have been great too.
Talk to me
And
about that.
we've done this last year one in Kanab, Utah, and that was a really fun, like, retro motel. Again, revitalizing that, leaning into kind of the retroness with some fun pops and color and pattern. And we um, we did a great job with that one. We did one in Door County in Wisconsin,
I
and
love Door County.
yes,
Which one of the little areas was it?
the property now is called Fresh Coast Motel,
Okay.
and they are actually that the client we're talking a little bit right now because they're potentially going to purchase another one just right down the street. And so lots of fun things happening in Door County if they continue to just invest in some of these really outdated old original operator motels and just kind of bring them back to life, which has been really fun. And we're doing also another motel right now in Newport Beach here in California. So that one's just right on the beach and complete paradise because it's right on the sand. So it's a really, really fun project.
Well, I can't wait to see all of these come to life. I'm sure we'll see them on your Instagram.
Yes.
A motel hotel project is on our radar for probably end of 25, 26.
Yeah.
So obviously we'll go to you first on that one. But so walk us through what does a typical like project timeline look like with you? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe not timeline, but like what can somebody expect with they say, okay, we've purchased the property. We know that we need to invest in design. So we're going to reach out to Brianna. What does that whole process look like?
Yeah, I mean, our clients are typically reaching out right as they're putting in that offer in. That's usually when I recommend
Hmm.
letting us know that, hey, this could come to fruition, talking timing, giving them a good idea of what this investment would look like too from a furnishing budget, what amenities they probably should be thinking about. Because I think at the time of you putting in that offer, you need a really good, clear idea of like the full investment. It's not just the purchase
Hmm.
price. It's like, what is this going to cost to design the property? Furnish it, amenitize it, potentially renovate it. It's really you need a full idea. We try to provide as much as we possibly can during that time, and then our clients will typically secure a spot, and we're usually a few weeks. The lead time's been a little bit difficult towards the end of the year here, but 4 to 6 weeks out has kind of been the average. And so once we find our start date, the moment we start, we deliver your design within 5 days. So it's a
Whoa.
super quick turnaround. So essentially, that full week, we're 100% dedicated to designing your property. Spending 8 to 15 hours a day designing your property, and then delivering by that very same Friday with your design plan, your shopping list. And then the following week, what we're focused on is making any kind of tweaks our clients are looking to make to the design and getting your installation instructions and floor plans and all of that together. So, on average, we're working with our clients for about a week and a half to 2 weeks together. So, it's a very quick moving process, and we're sourcing things that are in stock, readily available at that very moment. So, there's that urgency to place, your orders as soon as possible. I'm sure as setting up your own properties, the things that you look at one day, the next day, they're no longer available. And so that's just really kind of the name of the game right now. Just with supply chain, it's really hard to to sit on a list and think it's going to stay good for a long time. They go quite stale very quickly. So we encourage clients order as soon as you can. Things will start arriving to their properties within 1 to 2 weeks of you placing those orders.
So, in my experience, the couch is
Mhm.
always the bane of my existence
Mhm.
whenever we're setting up. That is always the Achilles heel.
Yeah.
What is your hack to get a couch that is in stock, readily available? Because I mean, 2 to 3 months out sometimes on these things. I
Yeah.
mean, what's your hack, or if you have any?
Yeah. So when it comes to sofas, you can't go to places like West Elm, Pottery Bar, and Crate and Barrel. You just can't because their lead time is crazy on any of
It's
their upholstery.
insane.
Yeah. So, you could always go to Wayfair and expect that there's probably going to be a cost effective option, but it may not be the best quality. And so we'll definitely be looking at other, options. There's Article, there's Albany Park. I'm a huge fan of Park right now because
Haven't heard of them. What's the deal?
they have great pricing. Their sofas are super comfortable, and they are always usually in stock, readily available. So they have great supply. So I that's kind of been our hack with sofas, and you can find pit sofas, sectionals, faux leather sofa. They have a really good kind of collection of them. One thing about Albany Park, they're not like Host GPO or Minoan friendly, and so we are kind of making that judgment call like, hey, we've scoured the internet. There's really nothing else good readily available at this given moment. And this is, what we would suggest doing instead of like a Wayfair option or potentially Article, which is the other kind of option that I say has pretty good availability, but over the years, it's not been that great year over year because I think more and more people are probably trying to snag an Article sofa.
I've seen that as well. Article is one of my go-tos, but my most recent 2 properties, we ended up going with the Wayfair option,
Mhm.
just because we had to get it in.
Right.
And so, I mean, it is what it is there. So, 1, thank you for sharing that, but 2, uh, what you mentioned Host GPO and Minoan. When folks are getting these shopping lists, are you, like, preloading them into a Minoan quote for them? Like, what does this look like? How are you saving them time and energy with this process?
Well, it's been great because we have a dedicated account manager at Minoan. So pretty much most of our clients do go through Minoan, and she essentially does everything for the client. So she'll upload their list, she'll generate their quotes, go back and forth with the client, help manage the orders, and they have that one point of contact over there versus like trying to contact customer service and getting different people every day. So I think that's what's really nice. And yeah, essentially we do it already in a pre-format for Minoan. So our list is already formatted exactly for what they need to easily upload into their platform. It filters out all of the non-Minoan items. I always, we will always continue to suggest non-Minoan or non-host GPO items. They're we are very curated with our list, and so you're not going to see a full Wayfair list, a full Amazon. We do Etsy. We do
Love that.
a lot of different vendors that just unfortunately we can't get discounts on, but it feels really curated. It's not like you're going to see the same things in another short-term rental, and that's really kind of a goal that we always have is a very curated design that feels one of a kind.
I love that. So for those of you, I realize not all of you have short-term rentals or you may not be familiar with Minoan. Minoan is a short-term rental purchasing group that is a place where 1, you can get discounts, but 2, you have like a centralized ordering place. So you add all of the items from all of these different retailers to a quote,
Yeah.
and then they will handle all of that checkout and delivery and like logistics aspects of it. So it does save you a ton of time because you're not having to go and check out all of these different carts. 1, you're getting discounts, which is amazing. I think my lifetime savings on Minoan is over $20,000 at this point, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
But I mean, the time savings aspect, Brianna and I have harped on it so many times during this conversation. Like the goal is the time freedom. So any way that you can cut out just some of that extra time that you spend is going to be crucial in this process. So, but I also love that you focus on just that curated design because that's what my properties are known for as well. Full disclosure, Brianna has worked with so many of our coaching clients, but she and I have not worked together on a project yet.
Right,
Not saying it's not going to happen, but I just admire her style because she's really one of the only, well, the only short-term rental designer who you get the curated, the found, the
right,
warmth piece of it, and I feel like that's lacking from so many of the other, people in the market. Our I work with a local designer who's just been with me from day one, but one of the things that he does so beautifully is he shops estate sales. He is like really going and finding these, older pieces that just add that warmth to a project that's not just click and ship.
right.
And I see that in so many of your projects is
Mhm.
you get that home feeling, which
Right.
it's not sterile, which I love, and I love that you use Etsy and other things. Are there other, like, tips and tricks that you can help maybe somebody listening, how do they find those pieces that feel curated, not just a click and ship?
Yeah, I mean, Etsy is gonna be my very favorite. eBay too. You'll be surprised.
Interesting.
There's a lot of, vintage resellers on both Etsy and eBay. And so you can find vintage finds online. You just have to go and look for it and really be mindful of, cost and kind of, balancing that with the ROI too. Because sometimes these vintage resellers, they could, really upcharge for finding that really unique piece, right? So,
Mhm.
um, Revival Rugs is really great too because they do have vintage rugs on there as
Love
well.
that. Mhm.
But I'm all about vintage inspired too. So you could still curate a very kind of found, warm, worn in kind of look with new items as well. You just have to kind of go and look for it and curate it and make it feel like you're almost bringing a merge of new versus old. And even wallpaper, there's so much vintage inspired prints and patterns that really do feel like they are potentially original to the home. And I think that's what's really fun about that kind of curated look that I personally really loved about residential design, but I felt like it was missing in the short term rental space.
Mhm.
Walk into a short term rental, I feel like sometimes everything feels like entire home filled with Wayfair potentially. And you could feel the quality difference. You could feel that there's lack of, character and creativity behind the selections. And so I've always felt like the little things really do count. And so the things that you put on the shelf, put on the nightstand, on the coffee table, those are the things that I really hone in on because as a traveler myself, that's what I'm zooming in on as a traveler.
Mhm.
I pay attention to where the coffee grounds are from. I pay attention to what things are you providing as a host. And so that is kind of the lens I always like want our team to keep in mind is put yourself in the traveler's shoes. What do you expect? What is your ideals? What's your, the ideal experience when you're traveling? And you want everything at your fingertips. You don't want to feel like you have to bring your kitchen sink and every cooking tool and all of the like spices and everything you'll need to make a meal into your luggage. You expect that out of now your short-term rental that you're staying at. So we like to curate that experience.
I could not agree more. What is one thing that may not be the standard, but you say, "It must be in every single property I design."
Well, there's one thing I know you and I definitely agree on, which
Okay.
is the white linens and sheets.
Oh, yes.
So I'm a huge advocate for that. And we
Me
get
too.
pushback from clients all the time, but we want color. Well, we will colorize the room, but not in the linens.
Not in the linens,
No,
not in the towels, like, white, 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 everybody. I'm so glad that we agree on that.
yeah. I I agree that it's, you want to provide that like hotel like experience. And if I saw a gray dingy towel as a towel to be my option to use, I would second guess that towel and why is it a dark gray and what are we hiding here? So
Exactly.
yeah, I think that's something really key. A full length mirror in every room is really important too. But I think when it comes to what we like some of our must haves, I would say this was probably typical too, but a luggage rack in every room and making sure that there's hooks and things for people to place their belongings, hang their items, if especially if there's not a closet or a dresser in place. I really love universal chargers, and I think I
Mm,
integrate that on a nightstand or having a nightstand with a USB port or in the actual lamp as well too. Because too, like, just functionality, ease of for the traveler, if they forget something, you have it right there in their fingertips. A musical element is huge for me in every living space. So either a record player is going to be my optimal, or like having some sort of Bluetooth speaker of some sort, but music right by the kitchen, cookbooks. I'm all about the books. So cook
interesting. Cookbooks. I do a record player in everyone, but I have not done cookbooks, which might be
yes.
something that we add. That's
And I
amazing.
like locally inspired. So if you're in the
Oh,
South, like some sort of like Southern cooking kind of inspired cookbook. If you have like a bohemian property, something that's inspired by the style. So
love
again,
that.
making it super connected to everything has intent behind it. So whatever you're putting on the coffee table, we're really big on coffee table books, all again inspired by the market, the theme, whatever we're trying to hone in on.
I love that. So, final question here. We ask all of our folks, what is a time in your life where change has brought an unexpected opportunity?
I think, making that decision in March 2021 when I said, "Hey, I'm going to quit my job and see what happens,"
I love
and
that.
it was probably the scariest thing that I've ever done, and really, not knowing what that would look like and how that would impact our family too. I think I would never put us in a situation jeopardizing just making sure that we could provide. But I believed in myself. I was like, I know I'm scrappy enough to figure this out. And if it's not this, I'll go figure something else out. I know I'm born to be a leader and an entrepreneur. I knew that really kind of deep in my heart. And so I think that's what presented me the most opportunity. And I've continued to kind of think that and just bet on myself and bet on our business and what we do best. And I hope that it just continues to pay off like it has. But I'm always thinking of what's next. What more do we want to kind of do and see? And my husband and we've continued to kind of do things outside of this in real estate. And I think we'll continue to do that and scale our business, buy more short term rentals, and do midterm, long term, and just build a portfolio to hopefully build, generational wealth for our kids. Cause that's really, I think our goal is to take care of them and also create time, freedom in the future. I hope that one day I could, say that Brianna Michelle Interiors was able to take off and I could retire earlier one day, before our parents did, right? Because I think there's just social norms out there, and yeah, I don't know if I wanna work till, like, I'm 65. I'm not quite sure that's, what I see for my future, and so, I'd love to just be able to enjoy life. So, that
And
really
you
is
know what? That's what it's all about is being able to create the life you wanna live and curate life on your own terms, and it sounds like you are well on your way and already doing that.
thank you.
So, tell our listeners, where can they find you if they wanna learn more? What's the best place to find you and interact?
Yeah. Well, our Instagram is Brianna Michelle Interiors. So Brianna Michelle with one L Interiors, or BriannaMichelleInteriors.com, where you could learn more about what we do, check out our portfolio, even reach out via our website. And yeah, we continue to just engage, I think, over Instagram and our website. But I see in 2025, we'll probably explore some other avenues and
Exciting.
just try to reach, our audience in different ways and find new people that are also interested in learning more about short-term rentals and about design, because we don't want to just be a thought leader in design. We want to be a thought leader in hospitality, and work with people like you where we believe and we are very similar in mindset of how we approach this business. And so it's not just a numbers game, it's so much more than that. And I think that's where you and I really align, is that like we're about that experience and curating and creating that one of a kind experience, not only for our guests but us as operators or owners is that, what do you want this to look like? And that's really kind of what I always ask our clients too. And so, yeah, that's kind of where you can find me
Where
and
you
help.
can find her. The other thing is she is gracious enough to spend an hour every single month with my coaching and mentorship clients inside of our private community. And truly, she is the only designer that I trust to just relay that quality over quantity mindset and just that scroll stopping design. So, thank you so much for coming and joining us, giving us so many amazing nuggets to take with us. Um, and we will see you on Instagram and out there in the wild. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you so much, Brianna.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely.